Hello and welcome to this episode of Natter with Neve. Today I have Carl Butterworth, who has suffered with anger problems all of his life and has used that actually to become an anger management coach. But we're going to talk not about too much about his coaching and his business, but we're going to talk today about the anger, what brought it on, and how he got himself through it, and how it might help you if you're suffering or with anger issues or depression. Welcome, Carl.
Hello, Neve. How are you doing?
I'm doing
Nice to
absolutely
meet
fine. It's so lovely to have you here. I think you're my first male guest, which
you.
is fantastic. And
Lovely.
I love that you're a man and you're talking about mental health issues and anger because so many of the men in my life to date have kind of tried to ignore mental health issues. But I think it's so important for men that they
Yes.
they recognize that, they have that there can be issues and that we can deal with them and we can come through the other side. Um,
hmm
Now, when we were having our little chat beforehand, you mentioned something about community and how that helped you. Would you like to tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think like so the place of depression, um, and especially around anger, it feels so alone. Nobody understands you. Comes from a, I hated that. Um, I don't know how it happened. It just did. That I started when I started piecing myself together. Yeah, I like a jigsaw to be honest. pulling pulling bits of me out of me. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about that piece goes there, and where's the next piece going to go? And it's just like a jigsaw, really, putting everything together. And the community that has grown and supported has been amazing. Um, let's say my dad and my mum. My dad mainly, and
Yeah,
also I had a lovely supervisor at work. She understood depression. My dad didn't. My dad just said you need to get stronger and things like that after a breakup I had. And
yeah,
yeah, I just couldn't stop crying. Literally. My dad like to say, come on, you need to get strong, you need to get over it. And yeah. But my supervisor, she was amazing. She actually taught me a little bit about depression, even though I didn't know it myself. Throughout my life, I look back and I think, probably three instances where I wanted to end my life, and it were all after relationship breakdowns. Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, when I'm looking back and I'm thinking, yeah. So after I've had depression and talking to my supervisor, I started reading books and things like that, and I never knew I had an anger issue, to be honest. If everybody else's fault, you know what I mean? If I was angry, it was
Yeah.
them letting me down. You know what I mean? So I never knew I had this issue. I didn't realize anger was a problem. The voices in my head, yeah, they took me into a really deep and dark place. Somebody hurt me really bad in family. And yeah, it was unspeakable what I wanted to do. In fact, when I look back, I should have been sectioned at that time because them voices just would not go away. I had to do something. They hurt me so much that, yeah, I wanted to kill them. That's it. That's how angry I got.
So how
If I
did your
look back
anger
and then,
actually show up in your life?
how did it show up?
Hmm.
Right. So my mum and dad, they're very angry people. My dad, yeah, he could just snap like that. Now, I'm not saying they're bad parents. What I am saying is this is what I talk about now, and growing up in that kind of environment, you couldn't get away with nothing.
Hmm.
You couldn't even talk, you know what I mean? And you shut down. If you answered back, you got a swipe. There were none of that. Yeah. So smacking became an everyday thing for us. Yeah. My mum and dad, very lovely people. And I talked to my dad a lot about how he was brought up. And smacking was allowed. It was everyday thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's,
Yep. I do indeed.
so we talk about smacking, and it's what I say now is smacking. Should smacking be allowed? The thing is about smacking it gave us boundaries. Now I've got a brother and sister. Now I'm the oldest, and I was always brought up to protect them both. That's how I should be. Look after your brother, look after your sister.
Hmm.
So when they started school, they if they got picked on, I would be the one that stepped in. In fact, I did it with everybody. I stepped in with my friends, you know what I mean? And I'd be the one that'd be the protector. I would the one that get into the fights. Now, I'm not saying that fighting didn't scare me. I got very scared of fighting. I didn't want to get hurt. But it felt good winning.
I guess so.
So
You stepped
yeah,
into that big brother protective role with
yeah,
everybody.
yeah, yeah. And I felt that I was the protector. I had to protect everybody. And yeah, my mum and dad, the perfectionism in them actually brought a little bit out in myself, and never nothing felt good enough.
Mm.
My dad, when I look back, is my dad was my first competition. My dad used to be into weight training, to running and stuff like that. I wanted my dad's love basically. My dad worked nights, so really never saw him. So I think I'm after his love than more than anything else. My mum was at home all the time.
Mm.
My dad was a toolmaker, so everything had to be spot on. If it wasn't, it was wrong, you know what I mean? And I think that's how he was brought up. He was in a big family and he had to find his way through that, you know what I mean? And fighting was one of his, he was small. I'm tall, me. Me and my dad's totally different. But a lot of my dad, I have got a lot of him in me. The drive, the work, you know what I mean? I work
Mm.
hard. I've always had that drive, you know what I mean? And yeah, so I've always been that protective role, but then I started getting bullied myself in middle school. I just fighting constantly in middle school, and when I got to high
Mm.
school, I thought, right, need to buckle down. I got bullied there. Um, I will come forward. I will go forward and then come back a little bit because I need to go back
Yeah.
to my family life again. So yeah, in high
Yeah.
school. All my friends were having girlfriends and things like that, and I didn't have any. Nobody wanted me. So I was into training and things like that, but school life awful. I couldn't learn. I didn't. I couldn't learn. I just couldn't understand why we need to learn anything. You know what I mean? It just wasn't teaching me anything. I just wanted to be into sports and things like that. I love
Yeah.
sport. I felt good in sport. I felt bad in class because I was in the lower end of the class. I couldn't understand all my friends were doing really well. I felt like I wasn't good enough once again
Yeah.
compared to my parents. You know what I mean? So yeah, the pattern's forming there a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't help. I mean, certainly the school system we have here in the UK does not help because we expect everybody to follow the same academic path. And of course, we're not all
Mhm.
academic. So I can see how
Mhm.
that, that feeling of not being worthy, of not being good enough can bring up real anger issues. But also the fact that no one was protecting you. Here you are protecting everybody around you. Who was looking after you? Who
Exactly.
was protecting you? You know? And that I
That's
think is
that's
probably
it.
where a lot of your anger came from as well, because you probably felt very alone in that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
You know, because we do need someone to have our backs as well, don't we? If we've got everybody else's back,
Yeah,
we need
yeah,
somebody
yeah,
to be
yeah.
in our corner too. And it sounds like to me that there was nobody fighting for you.
No, it felt it was a very lonely place. Yeah, my dad, like I go to my dad and he said, just fight back, you know what I mean? And that's how I became who I was back then. I had to do all the fighting and yeah, yeah. So my mum, Unfortunately, she was the first woman I hit back. I got to 15 and I can't remember what I must have done something wrong, but she laced into me and that was it. I'd had enough. I pushed her away. Didn't hit her, but I pushed her away and that shocked her.
Mm.
My dad came home, give me a good leather in, but that was last time I got hit by him. They never hit me again after that.
I guess they realized, one, that you would push back,
Yeah,
and two, that maybe it wasn't the right way to approach things, because actually we mirror what we're taught, don't we?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if
yeah.
you're brought
That's
up,
it.
thinking that it's okay to smack or to hit people, then that's what you're going to go out and do if nobody's telling you any different.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess a 15-year-old boy who's quite angry, um, and who's been fighting all his life is probably quite scary as well.
Yes. I was told that by my supervisor. She says, "Do you know you? I thought you was unapproachable." When she said, when I broke down and I told her about depression, she says, "You're actually a nice person, but nobody would ever go near me."
Because you exuded anger, I guess, all the time. Because people can pick up on our energy, can't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so if you're
yeah.
going around in this bubble of fury, people are going to
That's
notice.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that was my own protection as well. I wanted to be left alone at that time. I had this imbalance because I like being around friends, but I also didn't want to fight on either. So if they said anything wrong, I would take that the wrong way. Or criticised, I take that the wrong way.
And I guess some of that fear was the fear of the anger. Because you felt so angry, I guess if you were with others and they said something or criticized you, I suppose there was probably a fear there that you might lash out and do something you'd regret
Yeah,
because of the anger
yeah,
you were
yeah,
feeling.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And now you come through all of that. I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
what was the point that actually turned you around, that helped you see, one, how the anger was destroying you and how destructive it was for everybody else? And what was the moment that made you decide you needed to turn this around?
To be honest with you, I didn't. At that point, when I had depression and I had them really bad, deep thoughts, and I used to drive, not think about anything. And then one Christmas, and it was just after Christmas. Now I haven't seen my daughter for 16 years with
Wow.
me, yeah. And I got in touch, I tried to get in touch with them, and I just got a load of abuse from the parents. I deserved it. I walked away, but I'd walked away for my own reasons. Um, she stopped seeing my kids. She was 18 months, and I wasn't having any of it. Got so angry with her, you know what I mean? And yeah, she made it difficult. I should say they made it difficult when she got with her partner. So after 16 years, I tried to get in touch with my daughter. Now he put something on after the Christmas. I was in depression. Um, I did something that I shouldn't have done really. My supervisor once again, she says, "Come out for Christmas." I went, and then I was on tablets at that time. I'd been on tablets for 6 months, and then I went out and I got absolutely paralytic. And that Christmas, that's all I did was just drink. Now, my brother, he had a drink problem, and I thought to myself, I'm not going down that route.
Mm.
So then I thought, what can I do? What do I need to do? I mean, I've always helped people. I've always been a helper as well. I've been just
Yeah.
this angry person. I've always done my best for people, you know what I mean? I've always been that caring, but I was the one that always seemed to get hurt from doing the things, you know what I mean, helping people and yeah, like to just dump on you. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so that Christmas, he put a message on, oh, I hope you're happy with yourself. I hope you kill yourself. then that was my survival um, for my daughter. I have stepkids. I've got three stepkids. I've got six beautiful grandkids.
Wow.
Now, three people committed suicide. I call these my angels. Three people
Mm.
committed suicide before me, and I saw what it did to their families,
Yeah.
plus myself, plus myself. And I didn't want them to go. I didn't want my family to go through, and my kids to go through what they went through, seeing all that destruction. You know what I mean, from suicide. So I had to do something. So,
Yeah.
now we're talking. So I started a personal training course.
You started a what? Sorry.
Personal training course.
Personal training course. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I went to the gym anyway. I was doing
Yeah.
that. And then I used to watch TV. I used to start work at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I used to put TV on, and this advert used to come on for Insanity DVD. I don't know
Mm.
if you've heard of it. You've
No.
got to be
Mm.
you've got to be insane to do it, honestly. It's 2 months vigorous workout.
Mm.
So I was on my own, I had a spare bedroom, and I bought this DVD, and it's 2 months. And I started the personal training course at the same time. What that did, that got me mentally. So I wasn't thinking about anything else apart from doing that course, going to work,
Mm.
doing that course. Also, doing that insanity burnt me out, literally. It gave me the motivation. So I was working towards something. I was going to be a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Um, so for 7 months, I was doing that course. It was an online course I was doing. So they were sending me paperwork. I was doing that. And yeah, so for 2 months, my body was just shut out. But I could feel myself getting better and better. So, I feel like I'm going somewhere. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm putting myself forward. I'm doing something with my life. I'm not just going to work now. I'm doing something else. I feel like my life is moving on. I'm going to leave my job, like once again. I'll keep going back to this because it's repeating. But then after that, I got into another relationship, and that was the worst relationship ever for me. I mean, I've been with
Mm.
my ex-wife, for 14 years. We split up.
Mm.
This is where my depression came in. A lot of it, the redundancies at work. I split up with my ex-wife, redundancy at work, and also I helped my daughter and doing that, lending money. Um, yeah, it really got to me. My son got into trouble with his girlfriend now, trying to tell him not what to do, and he went in the opposite. We end up having a fight. I end up
Mm.
being locked up in a cell.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and this is what I talk about. This is how things can soon get hand, out of
Mm.
control. When you think you're in control of it all, you're actually not. So my anger just exploded.
Mm. Because I
So,
guess doing all the personal training and the insanity, you weren't actually dealing with your mental health. You were just kind of putting it on hold. You were putting it over here
yeah.
in a box somewhere else. And
Well, that started after I did all that. So
mm.
then I'm going to talk about the other relationship. I've just talked a little bit. I've gone a little bit back a
Ah,
little bit
okay.
there.
All right.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've just gone a bit backwards and forwards here. So I got into a relationship after all that. After like I said, partway through my personal training course, I knew where I was going. I met another girl, and I learned about narcissistic behavior. Now, my ex-wife, she helped me a lot. Yes, I had the anger issues, but I came out of that. She had three kids. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I could take it out with their kids because I used to smack them just like we got smacked. So if they
Yeah.
misbehave, so maybe, like I said, I don't know whether I'd have been abusive with my ex-wife if she didn't have kids. I just don't know. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is that the smacking behaviour carried on. Um, Looking at my kids now, like how I grew up, my kids seem to be, they're going through the troubles, but they're all together.
Yeah.
My brother and sister aren't very close. We're close, but
Yeah.
I see all them, and I look at balance, and I look at my life, how I've grown up, and thinking, yeah, I'm a very balanced person. But I'm the only one out of the three of us that actually is. Unbelievable.
Yeah, but that's because you've done the work.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
realized
mm,
that, you couldn't carry on the way you were.
yeah.
Um, because I
So
imagine if you
then,
ended up in a jail cell for one fight, that could have just escalated
yeah, yeah, yeah,
into other
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, suicidal was very close. Really was. It's
Mm.
it's my kids that and my grandkids that stop that. You've got to fight for something. You know what I mean? You've got to have something in life. Um, And like I said, doing this, what I do now, the anger management thing is, like I said, this is what the reason why I like doing these talks. As no as get nervous, but the nerves are there to keep you safe, and you've got to recognise that it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes
But I mean,
you've got to put
yeah,
yourself there, a bit uncomfortable.
anger is a very valid emotion. It's something that
It is.
we kind of run away from, and I think that's where a lot of the issue comes from, is
Hmm.
that we don't express it healthfully. We run away from anger,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, and then we suppress it, and
Yeah.
that turns into either depression a lot of the
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
And then when we come kind of through the depression, sometimes that turns into rage, or else we're just
Hmm.
like boiling all the time, as
Yeah.
you likened it to a volcano ready to erupt all the time. So
And I
obviously
think
through
that. Yeah.
your anger
Hmm.
management, you've learned how to express anger healthily.
Hmm. Yeah. Listening.
Listening.
Listening
Tell
is really
yeah,
good.
tell me a little
Yeah.
bit more about that.
Eh? Well, I think listening, it's like, so when you're in that moment, yeah, somebody's having a go at you, and first instinct is you're not attacking. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So you've three options. You either curl up in a ball and you think, oh my God, it just had to go at me. I feel bad about that. You know what I mean? What have I done? You can fight back, or you can run away. So it's that fight or flight within the person. So if you're in that
yeah,
moment and you're listening and you're feeling, thinking, okay, what kind of feeling am I getting from that person? Does this person, is this person having a go at me, or is it something that they are actually going through themselves? Are they passing, like I said, they could have had a bad day at home or something like that. They're coming to work and you see a mess or something like that. It's thinking, is that person really thinking about work, or is he thinking about something at home and he needs to take that anger out on somebody else? So to me, like I say, I stand up now. I don't run away. If I have problems, I work it out. I talk about issues. If I have a problem myself, I ask for help, which I wouldn't do. I thought I had to do it
yeah.
all myself.
I think a
So,
lot of it, comes from that lack of, as you said earlier, you didn't feel good enough. And when we
mhm,
don't feel good enough about ourselves, we're reluctant to ask for help, but also we don't think about questioning ourselves, do we? We think everything's an attack because we're not good enough. So it's an
mhm,
attack on me personally, and
yeah,
we don't realize that actually this is their story. This is somebody else projecting something onto me, but it's got nothing to do with me. It's about them. But when we don't feel good enough, we tend to personalize everything. Would that be your
mhm,
experience?
mhm, yeah. And that's when you get shut down. Like I said, my parents, like I say, you couldn't argue back. It was quick wallop, you know what I mean? And yeah, you don't answer back, and that's it. And yeah, and I think that is part of the anger is shut down. Now, I never shut anger away. It used to go out on other things, like I said, kick the door, punch the wall, you know what I mean? If I wasn't heard, being explosive, very
Yeah,
explosive. And like I
yeah. I
said, my
mean,
brother,
yeah. I
unfortunately,
mean,
used to get a lot of it.
yeah. And that must be quite scary for the people living around you as well. I can imagine. those explosions. Um, so what would you say to somebody now who's kind of dealing with that? Maybe they have a teenage son or even a teenage daughter, or somebody else in their life who is exploding all the time. What would you say to them?
But the best thing is a padded cell, honestly. No, honestly, like I said, I think when it comes to the fight, that fight's got to come out. And I've worked with a young lad, and we talk about autism, and he had that, and they were scared of him going to high school.
Mm,
Oh, because like I said, he might feel the same way, like me struggling in school. And he used to have a lot of anger. And when I first went to him, he didn't even want to talk. I just sat there with him and eventually started coming out. I didn't have to say anything. All I do was just sat
mm.
there. Says, ready when you are. That's it. That's all to
Yeah,
say. And he started talking. And I think with children, they've got to be heard.
yeah,
We had this saying, children seen and not heard. They need to be
yes,
heard.
yeah,
Definitely.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
So children definitely need to be heard. Um, their fears. Um, if they go quiet, what is the reasons why they're acting differently? What is happening? Is it something at school? If they're coming home kicking off, if something happened at school, it's not. Don't take that personally as a parent.
mm,
Because like I said, you want the best for the kids, but I also say they've got to be kids.
yeah,
You know what I mean? They've got to learn. They've got to learn. This fight. We talk about this fight, and it's a natural thing to fellas. It really is.
yeah,
Not many used to play fight all the time. It is. It just is natural to us. It's not something that we can suppress. You know what I mean? But to me, like I said, boxing, going into if they want to fight, going into a gym and things like that. You know what I mean? Doing it
yeah,
safely. Taking karate up. I did karate myself. So, like I said, sports is a good way. Writing things down.
yeah,
Um, writing all the everything that's going on. You know, I mean, time to write things. Play is good. Anything that keeps them active.
yeah.
That's
And
that's what I would say.
and I guess listening as well, just keeping that door open so that they know. But I think that has to start from a very young age as well, doesn't it? Like you said, you were walloped if you tried to speak back or express your emotions. Um, that obviously, and I
Mm,
suffered with that too. My parents were very much, we don't do emotions in this house. We don't. Um, like, so if you were angry about something that my parents said or did or told us we couldn't do or something, and you felt angry, you weren't allowed to express that anger. So it
yeah,
did
yeah.
get stuffed down. Um,
Hmm.
so I remember slamming doors in anger when I was a teenager, like walking out and just slamming and being made come back and shut the door quietly. I can imagine what
Yeah,
that did.
yeah, yeah. That's another thing. Yeah, yeah. You just feel like taking your off and hitting them with it.
And
Yeah.
that really tells you you're not being listened to, you're not being heard, you know?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
you've slammed the door because you are just really, really angry, and then that's just dismissed. You're told, come back and shut that door quietly, where a
yeah,
door
yeah,
should be
yeah,
shut. You think, oh,
yeah,
wow, okay. That tells you that you're not important, doesn't it? And I think when children grow up feeling not important or that your
yeah.
emotions aren't
And
allowed, that
and I
leads to
and
all
I
sorts of
think
issues.
yeah. And we talk about going on notice step and things like that, and think about what you've said. That's a good thing, but then you're still dismissing their own feelings towards something. You know what I mean? So they're taking it
Yeah,
more inwardly than they are outwardly. So they're still not expressing, but it's more built up inside themselves, and you can start feeling bad over time.
yeah. But even as adults, we kind of tend to dismiss our own feelings, don't we?
Uh,
We'll
well,
feel
this is
angry
it,
about
yeah.
something and we just kind of ignore it, we push it down.
But if you learn that from an early age, I think that's even worse. You know what I mean? Because you're going through the patterns, you don't understand it. think as an adult, I think you understand it a little bit more, but unless you're being taught it, what's happening, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anger is not, I'll say it's not valued in society. It's not seen as a good thing. Whereas I think,
Well, this is it. If you look at all notices, like I say, I've had it before, even in the workplace, you know what I mean? People's being sacked for it, I think, or being suspended. I think, why you're not listening to him? That's the problem. I go into office lots of times and they think, oh, he's getting angry. No, no, no. You're not listening. You're
yeah,
not listening. That's why we get angry.
yeah, because we're not feeling seen or heard or understood
That's it, exactly.
in that
Yeah.
moment. Um, and that's where I
So
think,
in that moment when you're not listening to her, what happens? You just end up going away and think, well, why bother? Nobody else is bothered, so why you
yeah,
bother?
either that or you get really angry, you store it, and if you're, you might explode.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
you have, I think we have kind of two, well, one's an outlet, we just explode, and the other thing is we squash it all down. And in my, experience, repressed anger becomes depression.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because I know when I first started to work through the expression, through the depression, I felt
Hmm.
such rage that it
Hmm.
was frightening. But actually, a
Yeah.
lot of it was directed at me, which was kind of even more frightening.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Mm.
that a lot of it was due to my upbringing, not being allowed to express anger as I grew up. So what
Yeah.
we really need is to be able to express our anger safely,
Yeah.
and then we also need people to hear us when something is
Hmm.
making us angry, but without them kind of reacting. Because that's the other thing is when somebody's getting angry, we tend to go on the defensive, don't we? We tend to take
Well,
it
yeah.
personally.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. You've got to take that. You've got to take a stance, haven't you? So what you do with an angry person, you got to step up to it, and then, like I say, it's the power into of the wills. You know what I mean? Who's going to shout the loudest? Who's going to punch the hardest? You know what I mean? So it's like I said, but then, like I said, you've got to make the stand. You've got to have your boundaries. You know what I mean? But you've also got to take the stand to say, you know what, I'm not going to react to you, but I'm also not going to take any abuse off you either.
Yeah.
I've got a quote and it's absolutely amazing. It says, "Do no take no shit, do no harm," and I love that.
and
It's
that,
that yin and yang.
yeah. And that's the thing,
Yeah,
when somebody comes up to us and they're angry, we need to let them feel seen and heard
yeah,
without
that's
actually getting angry ourselves, which can be really
yeah.
hard as well, because
Hmm.
we if somebody feels really angry, it can be quite scary too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I get that. Like I said, my supervisor said to me, he says, I didn't think you always come across not approachable. I'm thinking, me? No, I don't believe that. But she was the first one that's ever told me that. Nobody else has
yeah,
ever said that to me, you know what I mean? She's the first
yeah.
one. I
And
mean,
how
like
does
I
that
say,
feel? How does that feel?
eh? Well, that, I don't know. That was hard to take, to be honest. Because I always thought I was approachable. And when she said to me, I said, you're not approachable, thinking, really? How? But then obviously when I look back and thinking, yeah, I probably wasn't approachable. And would I approach myself? Probably not. No, I probably punched him. Probably punched myself. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Yeah.
I look at this as when I look at power and I think, would you hire or fire yourself? Are you the person that you who would hire you, or are you the person who would fire you? If I look at that scenario,
And so now you'd hire yourself.
I would hire myself before yeah, I'd probably, yeah, I'd have locked him, I'd have locked the other one up.
Because you've been through you've done all the work and the anger management and everything. So, Carl, we're coming to a close now. As I am going to be setting up a community around this podcast, so you will hopefully join that, and people can connect
Yeah.
with you in there. But how else can people connect with you if they wanted to just have a conversation with you around anger, and if they're feeling, if anything has come up for them during this podcast and they want to reach out to you, how may they get hold of you?
I've got a website I can put details on here, or I can
I
tell
will
you
put the
stuff.
details with the
Yeah,
podcast in the whatever you call it,
right.
the little
Yes,
script that goes with the podcast. So
right. So yeah, I've got a website. I'm on Facebook, Heart Speaks, um, Angry Souls on Facebook. I'm also started doing TikTok as well. So they're the places to find me. Yeah. So I'm
okay,
saying, like I said, allowed to express yourself. You're allowed to express yourself. You're allowed these feelings. You're allowed all these emotions. They're all natural. And yeah, don't let anger, don't be fit, don't fear anger.
yep. And also,
And when
don't
you
let it rule your life either.
well, that's it as well. That's exactly that's what the reason why we have fears. Like I said, a lot of anger can cause a lot of anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts,
Yeah.
and
Um,
live in the now and for now and be happy as
yep.
I as
So,
you can.
yep. And as you said earlier on, listening to yourself and,
Exactly. Yeah.
really taking
What is
care of
happening?
yourself as well is essential, I think, too.
Hmm.
Building your
Yeah.
self-worth.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why exercise is absolutely amazing. Going for a walk, just to clear your headspace. You know what I mean? You've got a lot going
Yeah.
off in the world, a lot of uncertainty. So be certain of yourself. You know what I mean? And yeah, start loving
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Start with yourself. Okay. On that note, we're going to finish. Thank you very much, Carl, for joining us today. Um,
Right, thank you,
and
Neve.
hopefully chat to you again soon.
Right, thank you very much, and take care. Bye for now.